Hello, welcome to Prague. It's our first full day here. We are going to go check out some of the famous sites, check out a market, get some food, of course, and we're exploring it all with Bindi.
Can't wait to see the city. Let's go!
Prague is seriously such a pretty city. It's hard to believe it's real. The buildings are so colorful and so detailed. Everywhere you look, it's like it just keeps getting better and better.
It's really difficult walking around Prague without having to stop to take videos or pictures of buildings because this place is seriously beautiful.
Our first stop was the Saturday Farmers Market. This market is held along the river in the center of Prague.
This market's really nice. So it's on Saturday mornings. There's a lot of produce, a lot of really nice flowers, a lot of really good looking fresh food. People just out enjoying lots of dogs, eating by the water. Super nice.
Yeah, it was great.
There was lots of tempting food at the market, but we didn't grab anything because we already had a breakfast plan in mind. During our last visit to Prague, our Airbnb was across the street from a place called Artic Bakehouse. We stopped in one morning and then we went back every morning after that because their baked goods were so good. I've actually been thinking about the scones from here ever since and couldn't wait to go back. This morning, I got a berry and chocolate scone, and Mehmet got a Danish. These were as good as we remembered. We found a nearby park to sit in and enjoy our breakfast treats. Prague's architecture is seriously so impressive. The long history of this city means you can experience all types of architecture here. From really interesting modern buildings to Cubism, Baroque, Gothic, Romanesque, the list goes on and on. It's like walking through an art history class in real life. Prague also has some great restaurants. One favorite of ours is Bistro Monk, which has a great brunch. Today, I went with the superfood bowl, which was chock full of fresh vegetables, quinoa, and a beautifully poached egg. Per usual, Mehmet went with the avocado toast, which also came with poached eggs and a rich hollandaise sauce. We were also having brunch with some friends who live in Prague who got the buttermilk blueberry pancakes, and look at how good those look. Even Bindi got to eat here. They brought over this adorable little plate with a variety of treats. On top of having great human food, this is definitely one of the most dog-friendly restaurants we've ever been to. We still had a bit of a sweet tooth after this meal, so we stopped at a local favorite, Creme de la Creme, for some ice cream. I can be a tough critic when it comes to ice cream, but this was definitely a great spot. Our ice creams were so rich and creamy and exactly what we needed because it was a really hot day.
We've been walking around all day. It's about 5 p.m. right now, so we're going to go get Czech's most famous food, which is beer.
Of course, the Czech Republic is really famous for its beer. There are plenty of pubs and beer halls where you can try the favorite local brands. We visited U Fleku, which is a really cool historic beer hall. Their establishment has 8 different halls and gardens inside where you can enjoy their brews. We showed up late in the afternoon without a reservation and were able to get a spot in the cabaret hall. It was such a fun atmosphere in here, with live music, very happy people, just an overall good time. I got a light lager, while Mehmet got a dark one. The dark one was smooth and malty, while mine was very crisp, clean, and incredibly refreshing on this warm day. Speaking of historic places, one site you have to visit in Prague is the Charles Bridge. Commissioned by King Charles in the 1300s, this bridge is seriously old, and just stunning. This massive Gothic-style bridge connects Prague's old and new towns and has 30 statues lining its sides. It's truly an impressive and beautiful structure. There are also a number of little bars and cafes lining the water that provide beautiful views of the river and the bridge at night. After walking around and admiring Prague all day, we're ready for our next meal. Tonight, we're heading to Alma, a contemporary restaurant in a historic neighborhood with a zero-waste approach to their cuisine. We love to find places like this that really respect the ingredients they are creating food with. We started with the cantaloupe and cucumber salad. We're actually not usually huge fans of cantaloupe, but it was such a hot day that this sounded really refreshing, and thankfully, we were not disappointed. The juicy cantaloupe and crunchy cucumbers were tossed in a honey mustard miso dressing and topped with almond and goat's cheese. We also got a plate of one of our favorite things, padron peppers, which were perfectly charred and served with sour cream and chive oil. For my main, I went with the fried halloumi, which was covered in this almost brulee-like sauce. It was such an interesting way to prepare halloumi that I've never seen before. I also want to call out the baked peppers on this dish because they were so flavorful. Mehmet had the grilled chicken thigh, which was tender and juicy and served with a delicious red currant jus and deliciously grilled hipsi cabbage. It was a blend of savory and sweet with a touch of acidity for balance. What else could you ask for? After these great dishes, we had to get dessert, so we shared the grilled apricots. These were served alongside a fig leaf ice cream. I mean, where else have you ever heard of fig leaf ice cream? As well as a hazelnut meringue, berries, and apricot oil. We were so impressed with this dessert. After all this exploring, food, and beer, we were exhausted and called it a night.
It's our second day here in Prague. This morning got off to a bit of an unpredictable start. We had planned to go to this lookout tower to get a nice view of the city, but it was really rainy and cloudy, so we couldn't do that. Then we planned to stop at a bakery, but it turns out it's closed today. But we ended up finding a nice cafe, got some breakfast, got some coffees, and now we are here at the John Lennon Wall.
And as you can see, it's pretty busy.
This wall began as a citizen-created monument to John Lennon after his assassination in 1980. It later became a symbol against the communist regime and continued to be a space where people could write lyrics, graffiti, and symbols for free expression and peace. It's definitely a cool spot to visit and is ever-changing as new additions are always being added. At this point, we had to split up for a few hours because the next attraction I was going to see was not dog-friendly, or at least so we thought. I headed up to Prague Castle, one of the largest and oldest castle complexes in the world. While the walk up here is one of the steepest in the city, it's totally worth it for the views at the top. As soon as you make it up to the castle grounds, you're treated with these truly spectacular views of the city. The castle complex is made up of multiple buildings, and depending on which type of ticket you buy determines which ones you can enter. And while this is obviously a hugely historic and important site, to be honest, I don't think that buying a ticket to go inside the buildings is completely worth it unless there's something specific you really want to see. Without a ticket, you can still wander around the complex and the castle grounds, and it turns out you can even bring dogs in here, so Bindi definitely could have tagged along. Since I had already bought the ticket, I wandered through the St. Vitus Cathedral, the Royal Palace, Golden Lane, and the Basilica of St. George. It was cool to see these places, but I really think the outside of the buildings were the most impressive parts. Also, despite having a ticket, the lines to get into many of the buildings were very long, though they did move quickly. And beware that if you purchase your ticket online ahead of time, you have to print out a physical copy for entry. Isn't this 2024? Although Mehmet and Bindi missed out on the castle, they had a nice little adventure of their own.
So right now I'm hanging out at Cisarky Island, which is apparently known as the Beaver Island. Alex went to the Prague Castle, and I have Bindi with me, so we couldn't go in. So I decided to come to this island, which I had no idea that there were beavers here, and it just kind of blew us away. But there's also a lot of like ducks and other animals as well.
So I just got back from Prague Castle and came back to meet up with Mehmet and Bindi. I'm here in this little park, which is lovely, but then it started pouring rain. So we've ducked for cover under a tree and we're waiting it out until we can hopefully run to go get lunch or something.
Luckily, a great coffee shop called Kampa Cafe was just across the bridge. While we waited out the rain, we indulged in some coffees and of course, some food. I just wanted something light to hold me over until dinner, so I ordered a salad and to my surprise ended up with this huge plate. This salad was topped with goat cheese, apples, walnuts, and radishes and was really good. Yet again, Mehmet got an avocado toast, which was full of perfectly ripe avocado spread and a nice poached egg. Another attraction that you can't miss in Prague is the world-famous Astronomical Clock. This clock is over 600 years old and is filled with symbolism and meaning. The clock is obviously impressive, but to be honest, we're not really sure it lives up to its hype. At the top of every hour, the characters on the clock do a little show. It's definitely cool to see it once, but since we had already seen it, we didn't want to stick around to watch it again, as it gets very busy.
Oh yeah, it is.
Sadly, it was time for our last meal in Prague. We headed out for dinner at restaurant Tiskarna Jindrisska, and getting there was definitely an adventure. We decided to take the tram, and it started to rain again just as we got off the tram. All three of us showed up to the restaurant absolutely drenched. It seriously felt like we jumped into a pool, did a few laps, and then showed up at dinner. Thankfully, the restaurant was so nice about it, and their lovely attitude helped us laugh it off and enjoy our meal. This restaurant is set in a historic building that used to print banknotes, but today it's a place serving up slightly elevated versions of Czech classics. We started off with something a bit unusual, pickled cheese. We didn't really know what to expect from this dish, but it was honestly pretty good. It was a very strong cheese that was served in sunflower oil, alongside pickled onions and a really good bagel bread type of thing. For our mains, I went with the Czech classic of beef and cream sauce. This dish, called savičkova, is one of the most traditional Czech meals. It's made from beef that's marinated and then slowly cooked to develop tons of flavor. It's served with a vegetable sauce, bread dumplings, cranberries, and a dollop of whipped cream, which might sound weird, but totally worked. After getting stuck in a rainstorm, this was the perfect hearty meal to warm me back up. Mehmet went with the schnitzel, which is hard to go wrong with. It was perfectly crispy on the outside, with soft, juicy meat on the inside, served with the traditional tangy and creamy potato salad. Both of our dishes were super impressive, and the restaurant setting was really comfortable and welcoming, so of course, we had to order dessert. We went with the sweet rolls, which were made from a yeasted dough and served with nuts and vanilla cream, the perfect end to our last meal in Prague. We have to say that Prague is one of the most dog-friendly cities we've ever been to. We found that not only was Bindi welcomed in all places, but it actually seemed like people preferred it when she was with us. On top of her adorable plate of treats from Monk Bistro, she was always given fresh water upon arrival and often admired by everyone around her. There are very few places that dogs are not allowed in Prague. They can ride public transport too. The rules state that they're supposed to be wearing a muzzle, but it didn't really seem like this was followed or enforced. If you're considering traveling to Prague with a dog, it's definitely an easy place to do so.
We are packed up and leaving Prague today, heading to Vienna, but first we have one last stop in Prague that sounds pretty cool, so we're going to check that out.
Yeah, can't wait.
Our friends told us about a spot called Sapa Praha, a huge Vietnamese market here in Prague. This place was amazing. They have so much here, but you know we're here for the food. Our friends took us to get some banh mi's. These Vietnamese baguettes were so tasty. The bread was freshly baked, the fillings were super fresh and full of so much flavor. It's hard to find banh mi's of this quality in Europe, so we were really happy with these. But the fun didn't stop there. There are tons of bubble tea shops in this market. We popped into Oma Cha. I got a matcha tea with brown sugar boba, which was so chewy and sweet. Mehmet went with his standard order of mango tea with boba, which also did not disappoint. Despite being super full at this point, our friends told us we had to try one more treat before we left. We went to a stand that was selling these fried dough balls that looked and smelled absolutely amazing. They have tons of flavors. We particularly loved the sesame and sugar versions. They were totally worth stopping for. And just when we thought we were done, our lovely friends surprised us with one more treat for the road.
All right, so we just left Sapa, which is an Asian market about 20 minutes outside of Prague. We met up with some friends here who are locals, and they took us around. We had bubble tea, we had banh mi, we had sesame balls. It was really good, and on the road, they told us to get this.
We have this.
What was it called?
Treat. Pomelo with, I think, some type of coconut. I'm not actually sure what else is in it, but it looks and smells delicious.
Yeah, they said you can't leave without having this. So now we got some road treats to accompany us on our drive to Vienna. So here we go. Clearly, Bindi's super excited to go. She's a bit hot because it's hot out, but now we head to Vienna.
Prague is really a city unlike any other. From its architecture, to its food, to its dog friendliness, it's such an enjoyable place to visit. This is just the start of our big road trip adventure, so subscribe to make sure you don't miss our next stop, Vienna.